When we're thinking of the UC system, and something that comes to mind is that at the UC system, because there's such incredible schools, you can reach every single level of education because they have all those opportunities for you. You can start off with your bachelor's degree, which is where you're able to kind of start figuring out, learning, see what different subject areas have to offer, and see if that's what interests you the most. Then you can go on into your master's program, which is roughly 1 to 3 years. And within that master's program, you're able to kind of define and really showcase that I'm really passionate about this. You're becoming a little bit more familiar with it. You're becoming close to an expert. And if you become super passionate or you want to develop research, find new methods, find new studies, or add to the subject that you're interested in, then you go for that doctorate degree and you're able to go for that, which varies depending on what it is that you're bringing, because as a doctorate, you have to provide new information and have that information be validated by experts within that field so that you now become validated as an expert. What does that look like? Maybe in my undergrad or for my bachelor's, I started learning about a little bit about sociology. I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. Now I'm going into my master's program and I'm really learning deep about different cultures, different opportunities, and how sociology impacts us. Now I want to pursue that even more and become an expert, and I'm doing research. I'm figuring out and doing studies on how sociology and the world is being impacted by sociology by looking at different groups of people. So that's kind of how it goes, and that's an opportunity that you can do within that UC system and go for. So let's do a whole system overview as we're talking about the UC system. So education-wise, the UC system, as you've probably heard me say before, are huge research-based institutions. And what do I mean by that? Because they are both publicly and privately funded, that means the UC system is receiving money from all sorts of different organizations, partnerships, to kind of push teachers to do research. It's kind of mandated at that point. When it's mandated in that sense, there's pros and there's cons. Right? The pros is you as a student now have that exposure and the capability to go into research. They're gonna teach you the skill set to be able to read, evaluate data, present that data, and showcase it to the whole world what you're finding. The cons to that is that because teachers are forced into doing research, that sometimes they don't always are able to give you the same time or the same effort for that. Of course, the UC system kind of works around that. Sometimes you are left with, having to do with TAs. Sometimes you're left with huge class sizes. The UC system has a huge student body, so you will be somewhat familiar with large lecture halls and smaller discussion groups throughout the week. So that means once a week, your professor will be there lecturing, telling you about what it is, maybe your biology class. There'll be one in, who knows, maybe 200? And then you'll break into smaller class sizes, roughly groups of 30 or more, well, no more than like 50 or 40, which you'll be able to present, do your work. That could either be run by a teacher's assistant or could be run by the professor itself, depending on what your school is and depending on how your school handles that. Another thing to think about along with that is that generally, at the UC system, you have different types of graduate programs, professional programs. They're trying to build you and trying to make you that thinker for the future. You can receive your bachelor's degree, your bachelor's of science, your master's degree. You can receive your PhD. Another beautiful thing about the UC system that I personally think is that because each institution is a little bit different, they are able to offer you different research in different areas. You're able to explore, find different opportunities, and you're able to mix and match because they have all these different partnerships and they have all of these different things. And they're here to kind of support you and give you that opportunity so that if you want to come back to the system, you have that opportunity to grow, develop, explore, and really, become above yourself. One crucial thing when it comes to education, when it comes to the UC system, most schools are on a quarter system. What does that mean? We're used to a semester system, correct? We're spending roughly 20 weeks studying, doing research, doing our classes. At most UC schools, you're going to be doing that on a quarter system, which means roughly in a month or less time, you have to learn all that material and you have to learn all that information. It is very fast paced and it can be very intense for students. So if that's something that you're a little bit weary about, or maybe you're not too comfortable with, that's something to, keep in mind when it comes to, UC schools. There are two schools that are on a semester system, so which is what we're used to, and that's UC Merced and UC Berkeley. So those two institutions do offer that semester system where you're able to kind of let the material settle in your mind versus having to, push through. And when you're pushing through, it may feel like, within 2 weeks, you're already in your midterms. Within another 2-3 weeks, you're in your finals. So it can really go that fast paced. To each their own, and it's based on how you develop. If a UC school is something that you're really interested in, then you can talk to us and we can help you and guide you into different strategies to help you succeed and retain that information in those fast-paced environments so that you can thrive at the UC system if these schools are really your passion. Another beautiful thing that I personally love about the UC system is just the fact that yes, they are expensive schools, roughly anywhere between $34,000 to $38,000 a year to go to these schools. However, they have so much financial aid and opportunity to support their students. Because going back to the fact that they're both privately and publicly funded, they have all these different money resources to create nice financial aid packages for their students. Roughly about 57% of students who are attending the UC system actually don't have to take out any loans just to attend their schools because there's so much financial aid to support them and make that education possible. And it's really evident when you think about the UC's promise to help make education affordable. That's the UC Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. Now, does that mean that you'll see it on your scholarship saying like, oh, I got the UC Blue and Gold, I don't have to pay for anything? No. What that basically means is that for students, especially high achieving students like all of you, our lovely students, that are pushing through, surviving, doing amazing in school, and are coming from low economic backgrounds, that the UC system will support you full-heartedly to try and make that education ultimately free, where you have nothing to really worry about, nothing to really pay for. So there is a lot of financial aid, as well as personal and individualized scholarships within the UC school in itself.